Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing the name format lab. So for this lab we're going to have two cases. We're going to have case 1 where the user inputs all three of their names. It's going to be their first, middle, and then their last name, and then we're going to input their last name, comma, space, first initial of the first name followed by a period, first initial of the middle name followed by a period. Case 2 is where the user only inputs like their first and their last name. So we're going to print their last name, comma, the first initial of their first name followed by a period. In this case, I use my own name. It's going to be Ruben Daniel Ortega. I'm going to print Ortega, comma, R.D. dot. And then for the second case, Ruben Ortega prints Ortega, comma, capital R, and then dot. So the first thing we need to do, we need a scanner to get user input. We can do scanner SCNR equals new scanner system.in. And we're going to be getting an error because we have to import the scanner class. So now that we have that imported, we need a way to store the actual names. So the names are going to be strings, and I will store them inside an array. So we could say string array equals scanner because we actually want to ask the user for input, and we're going to store that inside the array. Scanner dot next line. So right here, we're asking the user for a next line, but it's expecting a type string. That's if we hover over it. See, it's saying we're asking for a string. So we could do dot split. And then there, and each time we see an empty like space, we're going to split it. So here we're asking the user for like pretty much to enter their name. And each time we see an empty space, like after Ruben, before Daniel, there's going to be an empty space. It's going to split it and enter into the array as like a separate like entry. So this would be one entry, another entry, and then another entry. So since the array started 0, this would be index 0, index 1, and then index 2. So now we have like a user input stored in the array as separate like entries. Now we're going to need one more string variable. We could say string formatted name. We could set that equal to empty for right now. So now we have everything. Now we just start like actually like formatting the name. So we could say if array dot length equals 3. We're pretty much saying if array dot length equals 3, that means the user inputted 3 names. For example, it would be Ruben Daniel Ortega, so we would be dealing with case 1. So we have to format it to look like this. So if that's the case, let's format it to look like the first case. We could have it equal to our empty variable name, which would be formatted name equals. So if we want to format it like this, we need the last entry of the array. So we could say array at 2. The reason we're doing 2 is because an array starts at 0. So it'd be entry. This would be index 0, 1, 2. So we want to print this. So we're printing that, but it also wants like comma after it. So we can do the comma, and then we're going to have the space. So that comma, space, plus array. We're pretty much asking it for like the first letter of the first name. So we could do array at 0 because that's the first like index. So now we're looking at Ruben, but we want to look at like the first character. So we could do char at and then whatever index. In this case, it would be 0 because that's the first letter. So that's correct. Plus, and then we want to have it like a period after. So we could do a period, and we pretty much have to do the same thing for the next letter, for the next initial. So we could do array, but in this case, it's not going to be at 0. It's going to be at 1 because it's going to be 0, 1. Now we're looking at Daniel, and then we're going to do dot char at index whatever. So in this case it would be 0 again because it's the first letter, and then we're going to do the period again, and that looks pretty good. Oh, of course I forgot my semicolon. That looks good. Let's run a test case to print it out. So all the formatted name is like the actual like variable where it's formatted. It's stored in here, and then we can just print it. So let's run it. Let's do this case because there's 3 names. So it prints it out like in the actual, like in the output. So it's going to be Ortega, comma, R.D. dot. So that's good. Now we just have to do like the other case. If it's if it's not like two. If it's not 3 names, we have to do the other case for 2 names. We could just say else. We don't have to say anything. We can just say else, and then we could set formatted name. Because if it's not 3, it's just gonna skip this line of code and just go to the else. If there's only 2 things entered, so it's gonna be 0, 1. So we could do array at 1, and then it wants a comma. Oops, already had that. Comma and then a space. And then we could do, it wants the first initial of the first letter of the first word plus array at 0. And then we only want the first the first letter, so we could do array at 0 dot char at, in this case it would be 0 like it has it, and then it wants a period. And there's a period, and that should be it. So if we run the second case, let's do only 2 words. Can it be Ortega, comma, R dot. So that looks like that's working. Let me see if I could put the whole code on screen. We formatted it for case 1 with 3 words, and then we formatted for case 2 with only 2 words, or only 2 names. So here's all the code. If this helped in any way, just leave a like and subscribe.